I'm ready.
All right.
Hey, Johnny.
Phil,
How you doing today?
welcome. Welcome to our podcast, Johnny and Phil's Voices from the Village. And we are delighted to have you here with us today. And today we're going to go ahead. It's our first one.
It's our first one, yeah.
Our first podcast together.
First of many.
So exciting.
Exciting is right. And why is it exciting? What do you hope to get out of this? Why are we doing this?
Well, I mean, first of all, Phil and I like to hang out with each other.
We do.
We're both equally interesting guys, and we always learn a lot from each other. But we have a purpose for this podcast. And I think the purpose will make sense when you hear us talk a little bit more into it. And that is simply that we want to help our community improve. That's all. That's really the basic premise of what we're up to.
It's all about communication, being able to get dialogue, people talking to each other,
Yes.
developing good relationships, and seeing what we can do to make everything better.
I like that you said communication. One of the things that Phil and I are noticing is that as we become a more divided community and nation and otherwise, we've learned that it's hard for us to be together if we're not together.
Yeah.
And so communication can bring us together.
It can.
Yeah.
If we're not communicating, if we're separate, it just increases the division of being able to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why what we hope to do with this is bring people in from different walks of life, from different parts of the political spectrum, and listen to them, hear what they have to say, see what they think about developing community.
We're coming to you from a little town in the center of Washington State named Ellensburg. It's a lovely little spot to raise a family and to live. It has a university. It's a great spot. We really enjoy this little community. But we believe that this podcast is applicable to any community that is experiencing division, which I think is probably most.
Yeah. If not all.
And we have some real characters in our community.
We have some characters in our community. And one of the things we want to do with those is allow them to show themselves, allow them to reveal what they're saying, allow them to talk about their own vision of a community and how we might make a better community.
Yeah. We have three basic questions that we're operating on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The first question is, what inspires you about this community? And so we'll be asking our guests that question.
Mm-hmm.
What inspires you about this community? And of course, depending on the guest's perspective, they'll have a different idea of what inspires them. And we intend to interview political leaders, of course, and artists and community organizers and folks from our local university, academics, farmers, ranchers, characters of all sorts. So we get a nice broad perspective of what they think community feels like for them.
One of the things about that diversity of people is it's easy for people in a town like Ellensburg to be in silos. You just talk to people like yourself.
Yeah.
And don't do many communication things across the groups, across the divisions. And that's what we want to do here, is get people from different parts of the community. So the first thing is, what inspires you about us? Second is, what kind of challenges does our community face? Every community faces challenges, and we're interested in finding out what are the people who come onto the program, what they see as challenges for our community, and what they might suggest that we can do about them.
You know, what comes to mind, Phil, when you ask what are some of the challenges that we're facing in our community, and of course, the biggest one for you and I that we recognize is division. And we mentioned the word has come up, I think, probably six times, half a dozen times already in the last 5 or 10 minutes, just in a quick conversation. And it's so present in my heart. You know, I'm noticing division. I'm noticing division even in my own family. I'm a black sheep of my family. I don't have the same political or religious beliefs that my family holds. And so I find myself being divided from my own family just because we're so polarized. Do you feel that?
In some instances, yeah. But let's cover the questions and then go on to answering the questions.
Well, I like that idea. Let's do it. I'll follow your lead.
So the third question is, how do we know we're successful? What kind of things would we have to see to think, yeah, we're getting better at this? So those are the three questions that we're going to pose to all the people who come onto the program. And what we want to do now is spend a few moments talking with you about what we see, our own answers to those questions. So Johnny, what inspires you about Ellensburg?
Well, both of my children were born here, so that in itself is an inspiration. You know, we chose this place as a location to raise our family because it's a safe community. It has a university which has tremendous resources for people that live in our community, and it's really a neat space because we're a little town with a university, and then around the town we're surrounded by agriculture, and so we have we have both a leftist point of view and a rightist point of view. So we have 2 points of views that are um, it's inevitable that we're going to interact and work together in some way or shape or form. So I know that might sound for some of you might sound as a detractant, like you would not want to be in our community, but I see it as a real benefit that we have opposing viewpoints. And there's this idea that if you're sitting around a table and there's 7 of you and you all have the same opinion, then only one of you is relevant in the conversation. Well, that's not our case in Ellensburg. We have a
Right.
lot of different opinions for lots of different reasons, and for the most part, we get along really well. And then, of course, it's physically beautiful. You
Yeah,
know,
it
we
is.
we live in a fertile valley, and then all around us are mountains and hills and trees and rivers and creeks and wildlife. It's really pretty. It's a really pretty spot. Of course, Washington State in general is a beautiful state, but I think that we have, I mean, the creme de la creme as a place to live. What do you
Mhm.
think, Phil? What inspires you about this community?
I'll start where you started. Been in Ellensburg since 1979. Judy and I raised 3 boys here, all who've done very well. We thought when we came here, we would come here for a few years. I was teaching at the university and then move on someplace else. We never did.
Mm,
Still here. And one of the things that really does inspire me is what Johnny said about the diversity of points of view, the way people get along with each other. There are still some divisions, of course, but there's a lot of people in Ellensburg who really want to make Ellensburg a good place.
yeah.
You know, 3 Rotary clubs, for example, all oriented around service. And in those clubs are people who have a lot of different points of view
Mm-hmm.
politically, but they're all focused on service. And as Johnny said, the surrounding hills here in the valley itself, very inspiring. It's easy to get out and do things. What really inspires me about the community right now is the fact that there are a lot of people with similar points of view to you and I. They want to make it better. They see the divisions, but they want to do what they can to overcome the divisions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party in town are starting to work a little bit together rather
Yeah.
than just yell at each other. So being able to see that kind of thing inspires me in that we may be able to conquer some of the divide that we have by, forgive me for using the term, better communication.
Mm. Yeah. I like the idea that communication is kind of the antidote to the second question, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is what are the
What
challenges
are the
that we
challenges?
face? So speaking to the challenges, I know I just said look for a moment, but you've got an idea.
There are challenges here, and there's a couple of them that you may hear later on from some of our participants. One is there is no single news source, that everybody gets their information from just all kinds of different places. And not that one source is the best, but not having a really solid hometown newspaper, not having a radio station, a TV station here where everybody can hear the same kinds of messages. People now are getting information from a really wide range of places. So we're not sharing the same knowledge base. Plus, it makes it hard for people like us or people who want to make the community better to get a message to a wide part of the community. You have to figure out how you're going to do it in so many different media
Mm-hmm.
platforms. So that's one is how do we get messages to people? The second is we're kind of siloed. We mentioned that before, that there's not a lot of cross group communication. So I mentioned we're in Rotary. Not the Rotary folks don't really get together with the Moose Lodge folks or
Sure.
the FFA folks, Future Farmers of America folks. University people don't talk to the hay growers a lot. So there's a lot of small group education level divisions that are harder to overcome because we wind up just talking to people like ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a couple of them.
You mentioned off camera a little bit ago something that really intrigued me. This idea of birds of a feather flock
Oh yeah,
together, but you spun it. Can you speak
yeah,
into that for a moment?
sure. You've heard the phrase "birds of a feather flock together," but the reverse is true too. Flocking together makes birds of a feather. You get around people consistently, you become like them. They become like you. The group tends to become like itself.
Oh, that's
So it's
interesting.
so it's easy
Mm.
to get into a group and oh, you're comfortable in the group, you like the group, and I like Johnny. So what turned out that earlier we showed up with both gray and jeans on,
Yeah, same outfit.
same outfit basically. So
But we're at Phil's house, so he changed.
I changed.
Yeah.
So the idea of that the more you hang around the same people, the more you'll become like them and them like you.
Mm. I think that's true.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and we tend to seek that out. I think the idea of being comfortable, uh, it's less comfortable to find somebody who's not like you and try to create some sort of relationship as it is to say, oh, you believe A, B, C, D, and E. I believe A, B, C, D, and E also. Let's have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I think that we should start spinning that or flipping that rather and saying, okay, if you believe A, B, C, D, E, that's lovely. Congratulations. We have the same belief system. I'm going to go try and find somebody who doesn't believe A, B, C, D, or E because I need to learn something from them. Because if I don't learn something, then they're going to become another, and then we're into the nasty idea of othering, which is never good.
Sometimes I believe A, B, C, D, and E. You believe A, B, C, D, and F.
Mm.
And because
that's interesting.
Because we have similarities in certain points of view.
Yeah.
And I like you because of those similarities. Then I might think about E. Oh, Johnny thinks E is pretty good. Well, we all think E is pretty good too because I like Johnny and he thinks it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
E becomes less scary because
we
believe A, B, C together.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. Well, I mean, yes, of course. Let's do more of that because, at the very basics of what we need in life, we all, Phil and I have both had an opportunity to travel a bit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And so we've seen cultures around the world. And what I've noticed is that every culture I've ever visited, they want to experience love. They want to give love. They want to receive love.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the most basic thing that's easy to understand.
Absolutely.
Besides, they want to have a safe place to live. They want to have clean water. They want to have an abundance of food.
They want education.
Sure, they want to be able to raise their children.
Yep.
Right. They want to see their fruits prosper.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot more similarities between people and differences.
I mean, I think we're A, B, C, D, E, F. I think we're at like G already. Maybe H.
Maybe H.
Yeah.
But if we focus on, in the division conversations, if we begin with a focus on, well, what similarities do we have, and find out what we agree together, then the differences don't become so hard to deal with.
Yeah. Recognizing our differences or recognizing our similarity before we start tackling our differences.
Yeah. So what challenges do you see in the community?
Well, I mean, we're talking about the biggest challenge, I think, which is just people not.
Any others?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the biggest challenge that we're all facing. The reason that we're having this podcast, oftentimes what I find is the difficulty that we face is our opportunity to grow, and so we are currently experiencing a difficulty with division, and so this is our opportunity to grow and to really recognize that, if we continue to be divided, let's say for perpetuity, forever and ever and ever, I don't like our outcomes.
No. So our third question is, and let's segue into that, is how do you tell if we're getting better?
Okay, I've got a great example.
Okay, what is it?
All right, so recently I was down in Del Mar, California for a funeral service for a friend of mine. It was a lovely service, and my hair was shaggy, and so I needed to get a haircut, and I didn't know anybody, of course, down there that did haircuts, so I just called randomly the first person I could find in the on my internet search, and it said Mr. Roby. So I went and called Mr. Roby and said, I need a haircut this morning. Can you get me in? He goes, you better get you in 11 o'clock. Fantastic. And it was only about a quarter mile away from where I was staying, so I could just walk. So I got there, and here's this big, strong black man, okay? Beanie on top of his head, big braids coming out, some tattoos here and there. And I was a little bit intimidated. I had never met this person before. I was a little bit intimidated. But as soon as I talked to him, his heart, you see his heart, it's just love, just pure love. And so he and I,
very cool.
We just immediately started having conversations that you would not expect to have so quickly. We were talking about consciousness and enlightenment and love and family and just all these, warm, fuzzy type conversations. And I said, something to the effect of his smile, that his smile was nice, disarming. And he says, my smile, I want to talk to you about that. He says, you see me, I'm a big, strong black man, and I've got these braids, and I've got this beanie, and I've got some tattoos, and sometimes people are scared of me. He said, but not when I smile. When I smile at him, and I've got him. He said, I got him.
That's really cool.
I got him. He said,
That's really cool.
And he says, my smile is like a Trojan horse of love, because when I smile at them, I'm already to their heart. They see me smile, I'm already there.
I love that. Trojan horse of love.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
So I think that when we see more Trojan horses of love, we're on to it. That's what I think, that we'll know we're doing better when we see Trojan horses of love. That's what I think.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can do anything better than that. Part of for me is when we see more conversations across groups. When I see Republicans talking to Democrats,
Oh, I love that.
Richer people talking to less fortunate people,
yeah,
agriculture people talking to the university. I see more cross group communication, and the communication is done in a respectful way.
Yeah,
one that respects the differences, respects the similarities, respects them for being a human being.
Talk a little bit about respect.
Oh, okay, you're setting me up on that one.
Totally. So this is good stuff. This is good stuff.
I love I like words. I like to look at origins of words and things like that. So spect is to look. If you have spectacles, speculation, inspect. Well, respect is to look again.
Mm.
So when we respect someone, we look at them again. We look at them with more interest, more curiosity, more desire to understand who they are. So we look again when you respect someone. I really like that idea.
I really like that idea, because especially now, there's so many different uniforms that we wear.
Yeah.
And we see a particular uniform and we're rejected, or excuse me, we reject that uniform, or we're repulsed by that uniform. And I think that's by design, because the person who has a uniform on is expecting that. They're expecting to be judged based on their uniform, because they're putting that uniform on, and there are connotations that are associated with it. So our judgment is ripe. I mean, we are in a time of judgment and ridicule and division. And so I think that we have an opportunity to recognize that when we respect someone, we're not just going to take them at face value, much like Mr. Roby, my barber down in Del Mar. My first impression of him was, oh, this guy is scary. He might be a bad guy, He might be a bad guy. Maybe I shouldn't get my hair cut here. Maybe I should go someplace else. Or maybe I'll just be just fine. Maybe I can make it work, But then as soon as we spoke and we developed a mutual respect for one another, it was a lovely conversation.
As this conversation has been. We probably need to wrap this up. We're getting close to our time limit. But these are the kinds of topics that we'll be covering and working with throughout this podcast series. Talk about them amongst ourselves. And like I said, we're bringing in people to talk about these things as well. There are so many interesting things to say about how we get along with each other, how we can make society better. And in this day and age, we need to make society as best as we possibly can.
I agree with that. We have opportunity to have a thorough conversation with each other and with our guests that we involve in our podcast, and also with you. We're new at this. We're going to make a lot of mistakes with our podcast. I'm certain that we will, and we ask you to be patient and give us understanding as we move through this process of learning. And also, we want you to be involved. And so, as we develop our platform, I think we're going to use Podbean or something like this.
Podbean, yeah.
Podbean. And as we use Podbean, there's going to be an opportunity for you to give us input and to give us opportunities to expand on ideas that some guests may bring forth. And we see this as a podcast that is going to do a blooming, if you will. It's going to change from what it is now. It's going to, we're just a little seed right now. We put it into the ground, we've covered up, we put some water on it, but this thing is going to grow and flourish in ways that we can't necessarily understand at the moment. So you're an important part of this. So please make sure that you stay involved.
We hope you're intrigued and will want to tune in to our later episodes. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time and attention. See you again.
Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.